It's time for your board game dessert, my friends. It's game pie time. Game pie is when Mandy and I serve up a selection of games curated by our whims and our excellent taste because we hate ranking things, but we love delicious pastries. Hence, game pie. And the game pie of the day today is Castle Pie. We have a selection of games all to do with castles. Doesn't necessarily have to have it in the name, although I think it worked out that it did for us overall. We'll talk about our list and then we'll
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what some of you thought about castle games as well. Mandy, would you like to serve up this first slice?
I sure will. Well, my slice of castle pie, well, should be no surprise to anyone because it's been around forever, and that's Car- Carcassonne. Oh my God, Carcassonne. I'm struggling today, everybody, but Carcassonne. It's been around for a while. For those who haven't played it, tile laying game, and well, there are castles involved. I'm terrible at this game. I don't know what it is. I can make my streams and my roads really long, but when I have to make the castled areas, I don't know what my problem is. I can never seem to close off the lands, and the points just never happen for me. So even though it's a game about castles, that's probably where I score the least amount of points, but it's still rather enjoyable for me. So Carcassonne, I know there are various different types of Carcassonne. I thoroughly still enjoy the original. So there you go.
You can't go. It's classic for a
Can't go wrong.
reason. Although,
Exactly.
Mandy, next episode we should talk about Hans and Gluck, the original publisher of Carcassonne's pulling some shenanigans with trademarking the word meeple.
Pardon?
Woo! Yeah.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
go look it
Another
up,
time.
folks. It's wild. Anyway, moving right along. First-
Salt and Sats Insider Edition. For those who know, you know.
First slice up for me, Castle Crush. Castle Crush. This is a game produced by Soso Studios out of Japan, and I had to
Oh.
pay a ton of money to import this one, but I wanted it so badly because it's so adorable. And it's just you build up your castle, you got this pillar in the middle, and you let it you angle it and you let it tip over. You try to destroy everybody's castles. It's a simple dexterity game. It's full of charm. It's actually very compact for the
Okay.
kind of dexterity experience you get, and I just love it. Castle Crush. I'm going to destroy your castle.
I don't think
Which,
I've ever
considering
heard
how I
of
felt
it.
about Empire's End, it's interesting. I don't want to destroy my empire, but I'm happy to destroy your castle. Does that make me a bad person?
Yes. Yes, it does. No, I'm joking. I'm everybody. I'm totally joking. Okay, so the next castle pie or game of my castle pie list here is The White Castle. It's in the title. See, I'm listening to the rules, everybody. I'm looking at you, Suzanne, and I'm just waiting for it. The White Castle, literally a game where you're like in the castle trying to get up the floors of the castle. And of course, the dice are always a big factor in a lot of these games. Those darn dice, having certain numbers are important for placing on certain spaces, getting certain amount of resources or actions in those types of spaces. So the White Castle is one of those games where I wish it were longer so I could do all the things, and I never seem to have enough time. There
Very
you
much
go.
so. Great
The
choice.
White Castle.
Next slice up for me is Castle Dice. This is,
Oh.
I mean, relative to the way the hobby moves, I guess it would be considered an older game now.
Okay.
It's a light dice drafting game where you got a bunch of custom dice and you're trying to draft different resources and things like that to build up your castle. There's cards and there's all sorts of abilities and things like that and characters. It's a lighter weight game. I think it was one of the earlier dice drafting games that was available. And,
Okay.
some of this may just be a little bit of nostalgia because I just remember loving Castle Dice for so long. If you're into lighter weight dice drafting and you like that castle building theme, Castle Dice is a great castle game.
I have never played this, but
Yeah.
oh, no, it's good. You're teaching me all the games, but that's Suzanne's been in the business a little longer than I have, so of course I'm bound to learn a few things. So thank you. And I have a short list today. I don't know. I didn't have a ton of castle games, but I felt it was a strong list. But Castles of Burgundy. I mean, I feel like that's one that had to be on a list somewhere, whether it was my list, the listeners' list, your list, Suzanne. It's a Feld, and I do love my Feld games. Castles of Burgundy. Well, it's in the title. See, there you go again. I'm on the ball this week, everybody. But yeah, getting those different areas with the right terrains, with your tiles on your board. Super important. I know there are variations of Castles of Burgundy. I'm talking about the original one here, not the card game or the roll and write, which are equally as good. The original.
Well, I think that's an excellent choice. If you hadn't put it on, I probably would have rejiggered my list to get it on
Sure.
because it is just such a classic.
It's so strong.
But I'm so glad you mentioned it because that lets me mention Castles of Burgundy, the dice game.
Oh, there it is. Hey-o.
Bam. Yeah, of course, this is the roll and write sibling of Castles of
Right.
Burgundy. It comes with like 12 different maps that you can play
Yeah,
with. It's
a lot.
fairly straightforward. And I really do feel like it's a sibling game, and I
Yeah.
like that. I think that it carries just enough over that it feels familiar. You can feel like it's in the family, but I still think it's a satisfying play on its own as a quality roll and write game. So Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, really solid. And Mandy, since you cut yours short, I'm going to slide in
Right.
with my fourth slice. I had to bring it to the table. I own
Yeah.
a lot of this
All
game.
the things.
Oh my gosh. Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Oh, yeah.
This is an auction and tile laying game in which you are bidding for different castle pieces and you're building out your little castle. My biggest complaint about it is that the game timing means that sometimes your castle doesn't get as big as you want it.
Yes.
But, you know, wanting more isn't the worst thing in the game. But the thing that really stands out about Castles of Mad King Ludwig compared to basically every other tile laying game out there is all the rooms are differently shaped. So you have round rooms and
Right.
octagons and little rectangles and big squares, and there's underground rooms and overground rooms. It is an icon salad, but it is a super duper fun game where you get that thematic feel with all those different room styles of actually building a castle. So Castles of Mad King Ludwig, one of my favorite games in general, and definitely one of my favorite castle games.
Strong. That was a strong list, strong ending. I love that.
And of course, we are polling you all for your input on castle games. Thank you to everybody who chimed in. Let's talk about a little bit what you brought to the table. Christian mentioned out of the gate Stronghold 2nd Edition. Great mention. Christian mentioned that they thought it was a little bit maybe underappreciated or under discussed. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Stronghold 2nd Edition, and then Star Trek Panic, which is the Star Trek version of Castle Panic. Now, realistically, Mandy, I can see why you and I didn't put Castle Panic on our personal lists.
Right.
But it is a really great game,
Oh,
especially
for
for
sure.
families. Yeah.
Yeah,
So good
absolutely.
call there with Star
Yeah.
Trek Panic. Mandy, Justin mentioned, I mean, Castles of Burgundy was in there. Good job,
Absolutely.
y'all. You nailed it. But I like Justin mentioned Castello Methoni, which is an
Oh.
Asian game about building a castle.
I've not heard of this.
And Justin, if you were listening to me 2 seconds ago talking about Castle Mad King Ludwig, Justin mentions Mad King Ludwig in context of having owned it for like a decade and has not played it.
Wow.
Get that off your shelf of opportunity, Justin.
Yes.
Come on. Let's see. We
Wow.
have S. Vandenbrink, who mentioned that they like games about building around a castle. Fair,
Okay.
Mandy. I think King Domino,
Yeah.
Castles of Burgundy, and this was an interesting one to me, Rajas of the Ganges.
Ah, okay.
I never would have thought about Rajas of the Ganges as a
No.
castle game,
I
but
wouldn't
I'll
have either.
allow it.
Listen, I've strayed far worse off the path, so who am I to
Haven't
judge?
forgotten about Forest episode wasn't that long ago, Mandy.
Shh, let's not talk. Let's just keep that in the past.
And honestly, if I'd thought about it, I might have mentioned Rajas of the Ganges, the
Yeah.
Dice Charmers,
Yeah,
the roll and write
that was a
of
strong
Rajas of
one,
the
too.
Ganges. Really good.
Yeah, that's a good
Really
one.
good. Mm. All right, and then finally, Adrian chimed in with Castles of Caladel, which is I think it's a drafting and tile laying game. And
I think
Renegade published that one?
yes, they did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't played that for a long
Good
time.
call.
Yeah.
Y'all brought up some good castle games that didn't make our list. We'll always appreciate your input.
I think. Wait, did we miss
Oh.
some?
We did. Mandy, please.
Yeah, so River has mentioned Kingdom Builder. I forgot about that one. I did a solo stream on that one, everybody. If you want to see how terrible I am at building in Kingdom, check it out. But yes, Kingdom Builder is a strong choice. And you can tell Suzanne was like, let's take a look here. Stretches with Rococo and Royal Palace. So
Now, River said that they stretch with Rococo.
Oh!
I am not saying.
I'm sorry. Mandy,
I will hassle you 7 ways to Sunday about this stuff. But our friends out there, they get a
I'm
pass every
so
time.
sorry. River, I'm sorry. I made assumptions I shouldn't have. But I've played Rococo. Listen, does it not take place in a castle or the castle is the setting to me? But Royal Palace, have I played Royal Palace?
Royal Palace is probably
Is that a Fister game?
not. It's slightly older, if I'm recalling correctly, but it's
Oh, I'm thinking
designed
of
by
something else.
Xavier George.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I think that River may have mentioned that they thought it was kind of under recognized, undervalued.
Okay.
And I could see that being true too. Of course, Xavier George designed things like Twa and Ginkopolis, a great
Right.
game designer. And I actually love that River brought up Royal Palace. Good call. Good call.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Okay, well, thanks for that.
And of course, next time, Mandy.
Well, this is what I think we should do. Hear me out. I think we should do games that have elements. It's so general. Now, listen, hear me out. You can
I'm
have
listening.
you can have magical elements, like elements of magic. You could have elements of nature. You could have elements like the rain, the sun, the snow. I like this open theory because then you're not limited by your creative responses. Ah?
I cannot
Ah?
wait to see what we come up with for elements, Mandy. Which could apply to almost everything, but
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Let's just
Like,
let's
is
just
wood as a resource an element, Mandy?
No, that's a resource. Thank you.
Oh boy. Oh, we're gonna get into it, folks. This is gonna be a good one. Stay tuned. And chime in. You are welcome to email us with any questions about games, about Origins, about anything. We didn't really talk about Origins. That's a whole different thing because, like, looking at the Origins preview list, that's another episode. Let's talk about
Sure.
anticipation. Yeah. But you can email us saltandsassgames@gmail.com with your suggestions for Game Pie, since we clearly need help on that front.
Wow.
With any questions you have. And if you want to chime in about your element games, because you just want to keep it a little quieter, that is
Sure.
totally fine. You can also chime in on our Board Game Geek Guild. That's Guild 4131 on BoardGameGeek.com. Chime in on the thread with any comments about this episode, or, of course, with your elements games. So until next episode, just take care of yourselves, stay hydrated, and play a lot of games, all right?
All right, sounds good.